Welcome.
Hey.
Hi, I am Jamie Bleakley.
And I'm Crystal Vermeyer.
And we are the owners of A Better Tomorrow Therapy and Wellness Center, LLC, here in Anchorage, Alaska. And topic today, because I am regulating and just coming out of it, God bless you homeschool parents. God bless you homeschool parents that have multiple children. And then add the extra layer on there of having special needs or kids that learn differently or their brains work differently than your brain. And I think we are therapists, so like we do this for a living and we give wonderful advice. But at the same point, we are both parents that have kids that have brains that work differently, that have different regulation, and my specific right now, we have a 7-year-old who's second grade, who needs that body doubling, needs somebody right next to him. Like, he's got it all, but he's his own worst enemy. And then we have a 5-year-old who is impacted by prenatal alcohol exposure. And so like he is the hardest worker, trying so hard, but things are hard. And he realizes that and then we have a 3-year-old who we have to try to keep entertained and
and she's spicy.
And she's very smart academically, picking up on things very quickly, but that also makes it harder for the 5-year-old because her skills are about at the same places. Six. He turned 6 this week. Old. Oh yeah, okay. Moment of silence. So yeah, our 6-year-old. So that makes it a little more challenging too, because she processes things and picks up on things faster than him. So even when we're trying to do things together, we run into those hiccups of her doing it for him or speaking for him, and
which the 7-year-old also does, because he can't impulse control very well. So if he knows the answer, it doesn't matter if it's homeschool, if it's therapy, if it's different things, he's in there, even when he's not supposed to be.
And your side of it, you didn't have multiple kids at the same time.
Yeah, we did for 1 year. I came into homeschooling late. My daughter's graduated and she's out. And we did homeschool her senior year, and then it would have been my son's 6th grade year. And this year we accelerated him a little bit, and so he's in his senior year. And we've been doing this is year 6, I believe, with him. And they both learn differently, and they both have different brains, and both of their brains are different than my brain. So it's a lot of trial and error and figuring things out, and a lot of me like biting my tongue and sitting on my hands and being patient, because I am a very fast processor and a very quick learner, and they are a little more slow. They are both brilliant people, just very different brains, and it takes them a different path to get there. And so it's trying to figure out all of those pieces. And we came into homeschooling initially, my son has an autism and ADHD diagnosis, and we had talked about homeschooling kind of the end of 4th grade, middle of 4th grade. He was having a harder time at school. He's always had a little bit of a hard time socially at school. 2nd grade, he was the kid that would elope and leave the classroom and then go hang out with the front desk. He went to a Waldorf school, so there was lots of opportunities for movement. There was a lot of child-led learning and developmentally based learning, so it was like on par with our like philosophy of trying to be developmentally appropriate and child-centered, but it was still going to school and doing that go to school thing. And then we decided not to homeschool, because in the Waldorf education you're supposed to have the same teacher from 1st grade through 8th grade, and his teacher, he had a lot of hiccups with that. He did not get that experience. So his 1st grade teacher ended up getting pregnant and stopped teaching for a while, and so 1st grade was different. 2nd and 3rd grade was a variety of different teachers. I guess 2nd grade was a variety of different teachers. They put a very ill-equipped, wanted a gym teacher position, got a 2nd grade of very chaotic, lots of high needs kids, and was very overwhelmed, and he quit halfway through the year. And then there was a dual teacher situation to help support the kids and support a different new teacher for the rest of the year. And then 3rd grade and 4th grade, he had the same teacher who was great for him, and that actually helped organize things, because she was able to recognize his needs but also keep very firm boundaries. And so it was like the right amount of nurture and support, but also like, dude, get it done. Like firm boundaries that he needed. So that was really great, but then she retired. And so he was looking at going into 5th grade with a different teacher that was going to stay with them through 8th grade. So we decided not to homeschool in 5th grade, so that he could have that experience. And then we would reassess after that year and see how things go, and maybe choose a year to just kind of like focus on therapy, focus on other things. And then COVID happened. And so we were spending March through, like, they never went back after spring break. And so that whole last quarter of the year was just kind of a nightmare with schooling and fighting and having to get on Zooms and having to do schoolwork that I didn't know the directions of what we were supposed to be doing. Like, I wasn't sitting in like the Zooms, I was at work and doing other things. And so it was a lot of chaos and a lot of unnecessary, like, disgruntled fighting. And I was like, if we're gonna fight about school, I'm gonna be the one in charge of it so I can direct the process. And we'd already talked about homeschool. So we pulled him from that school, enrolled him in, we are really lucky and fortunate here in Alaska to have public charter schools and opportunities to homeschool in a wide variety of range. But those charter schools will give funds and help to support your learning and academics, which is not something that everybody has. So I'm very blessed in that regard. And we've been with the same school ever since, and we do different things. We are with different homeschools within the state, but they're both good in their own right. We don't need to get into necessarily which ones those are, but there are lots of cool opportunities here that make it easier to homeschool in that sense, where you don't have as much of the financial piece of it.
And that just journey. Do some research, ask friends, ask family members that are homeschooling, and yeah, the homeschool programs up here, I haven't heard anything bad about any of them, but
I've heard, like, everything that I've heard bad, I've also heard other people say the opposite and good. So like every one of them is like, oh, it takes forever to get reimbursements. I haven't had that problem. Like, and so it's just back and forth. Or like, my sponsor teacher's terrible. Well, some of them are gonna be terrible. Like, you know, like, you're not always gonna mesh with the person. Like, use your words and communicate and ask for something different. Advocate for your needs. So I'd say a hard no.
You know, pros and cons too. My husband is doing a lot of the homeschooling this year. So I do have support there because I'm at the office a little bit more, but at the same point, our brains work very differently. So depending on who you have help with and like how controlling your inner drive is, that sometimes causes some challenges too. But like as a parent, as a mom, as a therapist, you're doing great. Stick with it. I went into homeschooling with this wonderful idea of this was going to give our family time together. We weren't doing anything online. That's out the window. Like, give up that dream.
Well, and I think that's an important thing to recognize too, is that you come into, it's like you have a birthing plan, you have these things, like you come into parenting and you come into all these different aspects of it with plans, and the best plans, you know, we can try, but we're not in charge, so.
Yeah, but that goes into, each kid is individual too. Like, one of my kids needs hands-on, multi-sensory, do all this learning. One of them needs more work on handwriting and the transition, and he doesn't need the computer as much. He wants it, but he does not need it as much. But I also need a subject or two on the computer for him so I can focus on the tabletop things for the other two. So giving yourself grace, giving yourself, like, you know, as therapists, we don't necessarily recommend a lot of screen time, but also the way of the world, they're going to get a lot of screen time.
And for like going into that later, like being able to access and use the screens and use technology is important. And that was one of the things that with my kids going to a Waldorf school, they also are like no tech. So they like encourage families to be no or low tech and like no TV during the week, and like trying to minimize all of that, because it again goes into that like hands-on learning, arts and sciences, like learn through connection and doing, which we loved as a family. Like that made a lot of sense. And so we we already were doing a lot of those things and limiting screen time, limiting all of that access. But at the same time, in the school not accessing computers and using them in class, then they were finding that like the middle school age kids that had never been promoted into that were struggling with typing and some of those like fundamentals of computer use, that it was making it harder. So they started incorporating some of that in that school too, which was nice. But it was as my daughter was hitting those middle school years is when they were trying to figure that out, because, you know, they had started this charter how many ever years ago when that was not as big of a reality. And so it made a lot of sense to stick with this method that was a little more old school, was a little more old world. But as the times change, you do have to change with that, and you have to be able to find that balance, but also, you know that it's okay to like hand your kid a screen, and because you need a few minutes, you need to cook dinner, you need some sanity, you need things, but also that can't be the only strategy, because it's not actually regulating your child. It's not calming them down. It's pacifying the situation, and neurologically in the brain, it's doing more harm than good, and it's not actually giving them that regulation. That doesn't mean don't do it. It just means like find a balance.
And I would say the caveat is like that's 85-90% of the kids is true, because my 6-year-old, his most regulated, calm, I can figure things out state is if I'm sitting cuddling with him with the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
So like all of this stuff of like, I teach parents, no screen time before bedtime because they won't sleep. Like that actually does calm my kid down.
Well, and I don't know that it's calming him down so much as like the other supports that you're giving.
Yeah.
And then he's able to access the skills and the tools, and that's a functional way for him to access those. So I still wouldn't necessarily give the iPad the credit for the calming down, but it does,
along with other
it comes together with that.
So I would say another thing, like use your therapist. Crystal sees all of my children. I saw her kid for years and years. And there's a lot of things that like I could say, like she would like, this is where we're struggling. I'd come in, I'd say it, and then he'd be like, oh, that's such a great idea. And she'd like, you could see her in the other room. Like, that's what we thought about all last night.
I was actually, my daughter saw a different OT, and I was her supervisor, and there were more than once that she'd come to me and be like, okay, I'm struggling with your kid. I need this idea. I need you to take your mom hat off for a second and tell me like therapist brain, like give me your therapist recommendation. And I would tell her, like, as a therapist, this is what I would do. As a mom, this is what I've already done, knowing this is a therapist. And we've tried whatever strategy it was repeatedly at home, both her dad and I. And then Miss Kalia, lovely Miss Kalia, would tell her something, and she would come home that night and she'd be like, Miss Kalia said, she did, I know, oh, well, that's amazing. She's like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. This is going to work. Yeah. And so like, it was like, okay, great. But also there's that, and know that like, that's going to happen. It happens. Even when we have the knowledge and the tools and all the resources as a therapist brain, you're still mom. And so mom, mom loves me anyway. It's okay.
So up here, we do have places that you can get tutoring. There are different places that teach classes. There's sometimes that you can do dual enrollment and take some classes still at the school. So if you are truly struggling in a subject or with teaching your kid and they're just not taking that from you, find another revenue, find another, and like with my kids, seeing Crystal, like he brings his homeschool bag, all of his stuff, and she is able to like jump around and do different subjects or different, like specifically in his math, like she can have him do addition, subtraction, story problem, and jump around and do those things while incorporating movement. Yeah. And he'll come home, like there was one day he did 10 math pages in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like with the other 40 minutes being regulation and movement and do it. And he did phenomenal. And like the next day sitting at the table and giving him same, like a lot of times if he gets dysregulated, we're like, run to the stop sign, come back. Like, and he'll go outside, he'll do his running, he'll get some fresh air and be able to work for a little bit longer. But his brain is, oh my gosh, I have 12 problems to do. I'm like, you did 10 pages, 10 pages.
Yeah. And some of that too is like, we're working on that flexible thinking. And so we're working on switching between different kinds of math problems. We're listening to the content of a word problem and trying to put it together. I'm taking over some of the writing piece for him while he's doing swinging things. And then we're taking a break because then he's working on a clock, and you're going to have to come over and draw on the clock. I'm not going to do that for you. Like writing numbers and stuff, I can help you process through that. We can do that verbally. So it's that task switching, which is not his strength right now. It's still something like that flexible thinking and switching between is tricky, but we're able to like manage that in our time together. And so, yeah, it's fun to be able to, and I've done that with all of the kids that I've seen, whether they're homeschooled, whether they're public schooled, private schooled, whatever, is I always encourage, because we work on writing, we work on like problem solving and thinking. And if homework is a challenge, then that's something that we can help support. And even if it's just helping to give some confidence or boost some strategies and support and like figure out how to like problem solve, making that easier. I also, if we're working on writing, I'd much rather do writing on something that you're going to have to do and turn in, and like you're going to have to do it anyway. Why should I make you write on something different just to make you write and work on the practice and the skills and the motor plans and the intrinsic little muscles in your fingers and all the things? We can do it in real life, real time, purposeful stuff. So it's been a lot of that. And I've done a lot of writing stuff with our kiddos because that is tied directly into the OT realm. But then like math right now, like I don't need to teach him math. That's not my goal, but
because he can do it.
He can do it, but it's the flexible thinking. It's the like task switching and some of the other things that we're working on that are hitting his goals while also getting him through some of his homeschool stuff, and then helping him remember like, hey, like if we do some of this here, you have more time for playing at home because now you don't have to fight with mom and dad about it. We don't need to fight with mom and dad about it ever. Like helping to bring some of that together.
I think you brought up a good point too, is like, know what you're teaching, know what the subject is. We have meshed everything into one pile of education. And we're expecting kids to be good in every area, which isn't realistic. No. So if you're working on math, let it be math. Don't make it be handwriting. Don't make it be reading. Don't make it all of the other things. Like work on, can they put numbers together? Can they take them apart? Like if they need some fine motor manipulatives, that helps them learn, that's great. But also like so many of our kids are so frustrated with math because they have to be a good reader, which isn't fair for these kids.
And they need good visual spatial skills. Yeah. When you start adding multiple like problems, like using graph paper is a great strategy to help bring some organization and structure. If they struggle visually for tracking, for scanning, for like finding something, like there's something right in front of you, but they can't see it, and you're like, it's right there. Those are good candidates for helping to give some organization and structure, particularly in math, like with graph paper and stuff, because then it's a lot more controlled and easier to problem solve and get through. But yeah, finding ways to figure out like, what is the goal here? Like, am I working on remembering our math facts, or am I working on writing and writing the numbers? Like those are two separate things. And if they can do them together, fantastic, do that. But if they're struggling on one side or the other, pick your focus and work through that.
And I would say those timed math facts too. Use flashcards instead of 100 problems on a single page. So they're getting one problem at a time versus looking at just this huge grid where I have to fill in every number for my times tables, where I have to look down and across and up. So like, yeah, a lot of our kids with the visual problems, math is hard, not because they don't have the cognitive ability, not because they don't have that knowledge, but because we're throwing so many other things in on top of it.
And over time, like you can start layering those back in, but like it's easier to learn something when you're focused on just learning that one piece. And then you can also be flexible in like, there are a lot of days that I'm doing a read aloud with my son and we're going through a lesson, whether it's history or science or whatever. And even to this day at 16, almost 17, he is backwards on his chair. He is upside down. He is moving around. He's petting the dog. He's doing things. And it's frustrating for me because I'm like, dude, you're not listening. But then I do a quick check, like, okay, are you still paying attention? And he's like, yeah, you just said da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, as long as we're on the right page, like it doesn't have to look a certain way. You can be very flexible with it. And that might mean that you have to be flexible and you have to do some work on yourself to be like, okay, this looks absolutely ridiculous. But they're still learning and they're able to learn better because they are swinging, they're moving, they're able to like do something, or they need a break. Like that's okay too. Like you said, give them, go do some runs, go do something else. or there are days that we've been doing school and I'm just like, this is,
I'm done.
I'm
done.
done. You're
Everybody's
done. I was like, we're just done. We're done. And he's like, but I thought we had more. We did, but we're done. Like, you need to go play, go ride your bike, go do something else. Like, find something else to do, and maybe we'll come back and hit it later, or maybe not. And that's part of the beauty of homeschool too, is that you can be flexible like that. And the other thought that like keeps popping in my head is, just because you've decided to homeschool doesn't mean that you have to be the one that teaches everything. Like you said, like you can use the online resources, you can use other supports and different things. Like my son's done, last year he did biology and went to his homeschooled, like to their actual like campus and did a dissection lab once a month, which was really cool because then he got to do something that was a little more involved. I didn't have to deal with, animal carcasses in my house or the smells, or teach him that myself, even though I could have. My husband would have loved it. We both have done a bunch of anatomy classes and like that's really cool stuff, but I didn't need to do that. And it got him a chance to learn in a group and to learn from somebody different. The enrichment teacher that year was actually his sponsor teacher, so it got some FaceTime with the person that I converse with to problem solve and go through his school stuff. So like there's a lot of benefit of that too. But you don't have to do it all just because you get to choose. Like that's the beauty of the homeschool part, is that you're in charge and you get to choose what and where and when and who. And you can take breaks.
Take breaks, yes.
Yeah, our current structure, like we've done a lot of different things, and what works in one season and 1 year or even part of a year doesn't necessarily work the whole way through. And like what's working for us this year is 3 weeks of more focused work and then just a week of nothing. So long as he actually like finish whatever assignment. He's not great at turning in. He's good at turning in assignments for other teachers. Like he's doing a school, they're going to class for video and audio and film production stuff at a local tech school, which has been really awesome. And he is timely with his assignments. He's on it. He's focused. Like he has that skill. But when mom is the teacher, he's like, I just didn't do it. And I'm like, okay, well now we're gonna do it. And then we go through. But then he gets that week off, which helps with his brain too. We get a brain break. We get a pause, and we go through.
Yep. I would say one more thing that has kind of helped our family too is we have our math we need to do, our language arts, our science, our history, but we let our son choose what order he does those in. So he has decided, and he like sticks to his schedule. He doesn't want to mix it up, but like math is what he gets that brain block on. So that's what he wants to do first thing in the morning, get that over with so the hard stuff is done. And then the rest kind of falls into place as we have time throughout the day. But like giving them a little autonomy and choice there to pick what they want to do first or what their brain is capable of doing at that point in time. So, all right, well, hang in there, everybody. You're doing great. Give yourself some grace.
I think if you question whether you're doing well or not, you're automatically probably doing pretty well. It's like that's a good gauge of like, am I doing all right? You're doing good enough. It's okay. Sometimes good enough is great.
and have people help you. So if your therapist, like let them know what you're struggling with and see how they can tie that into the goals that they have. So
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Hit the click likes. Subscribe button and feel free to share us. Yeah. Any questions or comments or additional topics, please add them in those comment sections. Thank you.